Hi, welcome back to HairSmarter, the podcast where we dive into what hair school forgot to teach you. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sarah Jane. And today we're looking at beauty from a different vantage point. One stylists rarely get the insight into, and it's the brand world.
Ooh, we got a good guest today. Our guest is someone who shapes how beauty looks, feels, and communicates on a global scale. She's led creative direction for brands like L'Oreal, Essie, and SkinCeuticals, and more. She's now the Senior Director of Brand Design at the Guggenheim Museum.
Oh my God, this is so exciting! Welcome to the show, Davia de Croix.
Woo!
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so delighted to be here.
I know it's going to be
We're
so
nervous for you. You're like a big time guest.
Oh,
Woo!
please.
Oh, all right. Before we dive in, let's start with how we met. It's kind of a classic New York story.
Okay, so I'm sure all your audience will be familiar with the term off-duty model
Yes.
look. So I was so fortunate that for the better part of 10 years, I had the role of being on-set photography director in fashion and beauty for all these huge brands that you'd know and recognize. So we did tons and tons of castings. Just to give you an example, for Tom Ford, for a single beauty campaign, we cast over 400 men and women in a single day.
Oh
So
my God.
it is not an exaggeration to say that I have seen thousands of models for casting, for advertising. And there would be these men and women that would come in that had this effortlessly cool look. And whenever they were just the one, we'd say, "Who cuts your hair?" We'd kind of like, after the casting, we'd call them aside. And we'd like, "I need to know who cuts your hair." And
Oh
9
my
times out of
God.
10, it was Sarah.
Oh my
So
that's
I
cute!
Stop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had this in my notebook for years, literally years. It never even occurred to me that Sarah cut regular people's hair. It literally didn't. And I was going through a particularly challenging hair moment, and my husband was like, "In the work you do, don't you know anyone that can help you?" And I thought, well, the only person who I really want is this person I've never met who styles all the it girls, does the effortlessly cool. It's like they walk in ready. We don't have to even touch it or anything. And you're on my mood board. I'm always trying to get back to and recreate this hair that looks effortlessly cool, perfectly imperfect, a little lived in, but still polished. Um, there's no dead ends. That's not a thing. And so I DM'd you. I found your Instagram handle, and which was covered with models that I knew. And I was like, yep, work with
She's
her,
the
work with
one.
her. And so I DM'd you and was like, "Do you cut real people's hair?" Because I just assumed you were probably a commercial, editorial, advertising set stylist, and that you didn't actually cut real people's hair. And you were like, "Sure, girl, just follow the link."
Yeah, I was
And so
like,
that's how we
sign up.
met. I
God, that
know.
is
Wow.
too funny. First of all, I love that that was your first impression of me because I literally haven't worn pants with buttons since before the pandemic, and pretty chill over here.
Wow, Sarah, that's such a huge compliment. That's like
It is.
a dream client, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I
Oh,
feel so fortunate because, I had seen your work on literally men and women, all different types of ages, all different types of hair textures and lengths. And yet there was a clear point of view that emerged as I asked, these models who did their hair, and it was you more often than not. It was clearly like there was something I was looking for aesthetically and something that you were doing in your work that it didn't really matter. It just totally transcended age and ethnicity and all those things. And so that's when I knew that gosh, why am I not treating myself to this?
When you think back to those early conversations between you two about art and beauty and work and burnout, what stands out to you now?
Well, I mean, in terms of the relationship I have with Sarah, Sarah is so much more than incredible artistic stylist, right? You have a lot of humanitarian causes that you are passionately devoted to. You are truly a member of the community that's working hard to elevate all kinds of people, especially people that aren't as fortunate as us. And so that's something that I have tremendous respect and admiration for. And so that's just one small part of the relationship that we have developed in this moment that I think is often really seen as very intimate, right? Between the person who's having the haircut style, the work done, the beauty work done, and the stylist. And so there's always this interesting intimacy and sort of I think a negotiation of
Mhm.
that occurs that's very special and rare in your field. And I know having worked with so many photographers, they figured out pretty quickly that the hairstylist and the makeup artist, they're the ones that know what's going on. Like they
So
have the scoop and we need to like get with them to figure out like what's the vibe today? What's the energy? What are we doing? Because there is this incredible intimacy that occurs when you are touching someone and helping them to achieve their best possible look. It's like a really generous moment that I think inspires probably a lot of trust.
Mm,
so
mm.
true, right? And then
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
how you
I
can bring
agree with
that
her.
out and bring it into the photo, right?
Yeah. And I agree with her 100%. Like, Davia is one of my favorite people that comes in the salon. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I see her on the books, I always add a little extra time at the end because I love talking to this woman so much. Like,
We're a little blabbity blab.
yeah, I'm just like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, God damn it, I'm late again. So it's just, it is so nice to talk to someone who is so influential in the beauty space
Mhm.
and be able to like have a peer one-to-one conversation about it. Cause I do think she's right. We do, as hairdressers, get to see what people are interested in and how they want to look, right? New York is cool, right? New York has a vibe, but also there are a trillion unsaid dress codes for different, whatever occupies your time, whatever job you have. So, what are the lawyers into right now? What are the advertising people into? What is tech wearing? And
Mhm.
it's interesting because it all kind of comes together in this like meshed up mood board where you're like, oh, wow, like you can actually really see how people are feeling about themselves and in turn with the city. So, it's interesting to be able to have those kind of conversations, large scale conversations with someone who thinks the same way. So I love when she comes in.
And
Me
I always leave looking and feeling so much better. So
Yeah, you do. Well, listen, you have built a career in art direction, which is amazing. You've crafted an incredible creative career from editorial roots to beauty, fashion, cultural institutions, and beyond. Can you walk us through how you found your way into art direction and what pulled you toward visual storytelling?
yeah. Well, I feel really lucky that it's essentially the only thing I've ever done, even
Wow.
before I understood it to be a job.
Mm,
I went to art school. I studied art, focusing mostly on photography and experimental filmmaking. And I knew that I really wanted to make things and that I had a really strong aesthetic point of view. But I actually didn't know, and in spite of that, following that interest rapidly, I had little awareness about commercial work.
mm,
Um, and so even though I was consuming it, whether it's like reading Vogue or going to the
Right.
movies, more commercial films or what have you, I was sort of oblivious to the fact that there was a commercial path um, that was possible for me. And it was really through the guidance of really incredible mentors who said, you know, you should be an art director. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And they're like, you're already doing it. You
mm.
just need to find you just need to find someone who'll pay you to do it. So,
Perfect.
I'm kind of one of those people, got very lucky, and then I think being in New York, I think that's one of the things we're so fortunate, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you have to understand the relevancy, whether it's finding your audience or finding the place where you can do your work. And so for
Mm.
better or for worse, it's New York. And so I came here to study art and I was able to stay and continue making work that I really wanted to put out into the world, but pretty much purely in the commercial sector, which I started doing before I graduated from art school. So I kind of like
Wow.
just started making things.
Wow. That's amazing.
Very
Well,
lucky.
I know you guys have a history, and I've just met you today. And when you say like you were making things and you got into commercial work, what does that mean?
Well, so art school is very experimental. I mean, it's sort of meant to be in a way, but while you're defining and trying to find your voice and hone the craft.
Hmm.
And so in that process, I was making these sort of esoteric photos or short films and videos that sometimes featured myself, sometimes it was friends, like art school friends. But it was really essentially what it came down to was image making. It
Mm,
was you know, thinking through all of the sort of aesthetic attributes of a photo or a video, like from the lighting to the composition to the styling to the hair and the makeup, what the people look like, how they are moving, and right every detail down to like I was obsessed with like the titling and the credits and like designing it all, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I had a very clear point of view about what I liked and what I wanted and what I was trying to package up, even if the storytelling wasn't necessarily fully robust, like a true story
mm,
arc that you'd think of it. It was sort of like these snippets, snapshots, pieces that I was sort of experimenting with and kind of refining and coming back to, which essentially became sort of the first part of a portfolio of work. And when I was showing as a student, I had designers come and see my work and say, "Oh, they would offer me a job to work for them." I said, "Well, I've never studied graphic design. I don't really know if I know how to do that." They're like, "Well, you're already doing it, so don't worry, you'll be fine." And then they're sort of like, "Well, what's the worst that could happen? I could fail at something that I didn't even know I wanted."
mm,
And so I think that's if there's any sort of secret sauce to my success, it was really being lucky, having a very high tolerance for risk taking because these
Mm.
were things I didn't necessarily know I wanted or would be good at. So I sort of went into it fairly fearlessly. Um, and then over the years, people have commented who work with me say that I bring a somewhat egoless approach to the work, which
mm.
boils down to I just really feel passionately about making cool shit. It's
Awesome.
what I love to do. Like, I wake up, I wanna make stuff, and I wanna make cool stuff, and I wanna get it out into the world, and, for better or for worse, I've been allowed to do that for really, really great brands and great people and had great experiences along the way. But there wasn't, like, a master plan or, like, some,
Yeah.
obvious path to any of it.
My first reaction is to be like, what a blessing. But actually, like, yes, of course, what a blessing. But also, like, you
Yeah.
worked really hard to do it. Like, good for you, and you stayed true to who you were. And, like, yeah, there's no master plan, but like inside your soul, there was.
It sounds like you just carved out your own path. You made it what you wanted it to be.
Yeah, there was definitely some trial and error, and then I think going through a program where you're putting your work, whether it's fully resolved or not, in front of a group of your peers and being critiqued on it day in, day out, week in, week out, in a way that was, like, really generous, I think, for your peers to, like, invest that amount of time in you, but also there's a lot of vulnerability in
Mhm.
being able to listen to the critique and think about it, think of whether your peers were asking questions that you thought were relevant to you or your work or not, all these things. It did really prepare me well for
Mm,
commercial work. And so having I don't really like the term thick skin per se, but I
Mm,
think having a high tolerance
mm,
for criticism while being true to yourself, right? And understanding what is your North Star? What are your guiding principles and philosophies? What's your point of view that you're bringing to the table? And then constantly sort of measuring or judging, like, is this criticism relevant to
Mhm.
my point of view and what I'm trying to do? And so therefore I need to, like, really think about it
Mhm.
and think about how to solve or answer or address that criticism, or is it not relevant to what I'm doing? And so I don't, need to take it to heart. And
Right.
I think that's something I see folks sometimes in the early part of their career struggling with, that everything is so
Yes.
personal and not really understanding how to sort of separate themselves a little bit, allowing for criticism, allow yourself to sort of sit with it and really determine whether it's valuable information, good feedback, as I call it, or not valuable.
Mm,
Yeah.
well said.
Very well said. So, what do you think were some defining decisions or moments that shaped the creative leader that you are today?
I mean, I have to give credit to my mentors. I
Mm,
had incredible teachers, incredible mentors. I really, try to surround myself with a support system that is willing to challenge me, but like in a kind and healthy way. So there's that piece of it that's sort of happening in the background, which is really great to have, and to think about how you want to build and nurture your network of people, right? But then I think, I also understand where the market is and your marketability in that market. And there have been times when I've made pretty big career changes and shifts because I saw an opportunity in the market that I could fill. And so I think part of that is my like ability to take risk, and part of it is wanting to continue to challenge and evolve myself. And also, it's like this idea of relevancy, right? Because I do think
Mm,
that now there's a lot of pressure and concern with the super, super advancement of AI and what kind of, creative jobs will that replace. But before that, there were other sort of shifts that were happening in the marketplace. So, like, for instance, I invested quite a bit of time in fashion, and then I saw an opportunity to pivot more into beauty. And a lot of folks really challenged that assumption and thought, well, no, fashion and beauty, even though they go together, are from an industry standpoint not together. They're very separate industries and have very separate concerns and different types of skill sets and talents in those. And
mm,
so I did have to do a fair amount of persuasion to get an opportunity to work in the beauty space. But having worked for Tom Ford Fashion allowed me an entry into Tom Ford Beauty, for example, which was like a really natural way to cross over into beauty and to develop some credibility in the space, and then to continue to grow and do work for other brands.
wow.
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 I don't know if that answered your question or
Pretty
not.
good.
Yeah, it did. That was so good. I also think like I'm trying to think about it in a way that like, hairdressers may think about it, right? Like so many stylists, I feel, don't realize that they're visual storytellers too,
Hmm.
right? Like especially hairstylists, for example. So, what skills from art direction that you've learned do you think might translate directly to working, let's say, behind the chair or in a salon or being a hairstylist?
Well, I definitely think there's an obsessive quality about detail,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And all the details, they all cumulatively add up. They all tell the story. And this is why, as a visual creative, I'm used to telling the story without any words. Like, maybe the only word is the name of the brand. And I think that's sort of where I excel, is in that visual storytelling, that it's not really reliant on words or copy. And so there's no detail that's too small. And I think from everything from how you're presenting yourself to your environment, to the extent that you can control it, right? So it's like, what are the products that you're putting on the shelf? What are the products that you're using on people? How much is that saying about who you are as an artist and that sort of edit that you've made? And also, the type of clientele that you're cultivating or that you're working with or supporting, right? Like, are these the right products for them? Are you going to help to educate and elevate their experience? If, for instance, if that's like, goal of yours is to like elevate or educate your customers. So I think there's like no detail that's too small. Like, I can't tell you how many times all have, paid attention to the haircut that the stylist has, the clothes, the jewelry, the perfume that they're wearing. Like all of these
Mm,
things cumulatively add up, even if folks don't necessarily notice all of them all at once or are more sensitive to some things or another. But I do think that you're curating an entire experience. And
mm,
it's multisensory, it's the music that's playing, it's the temperature of the water. When I'm running a photo shoot, I always try to have a moment with the model, usually right when they're starting to sit in the hair and makeup chair, where it's like making sure, do you have what you need? Do you have your hydration, like your water, your tea, your coffee? What is it? Making sure that they're feeling welcome and super comfortable, um, and then, asking them a little bit about what's going on for them that day. But I
Mm,
want to put
mm,
on some music right away. And I want to make sure it's music that they like, that they're going to
mm,
vibe to. And I'm going to want it to be kind of chill because we're still in this kind of quiet moment before everyone else has arrived, before the lighting and cameras are all set up. And
mm.
then I will be thinking about, like, so I'll ask the model what they want to listen to. I'll try to curate a Spotify list to that, but keep it low key, knowing that there's going to be this big reveal moment when the hair and makeup is done and the model walks on set, and you want everyone to be like, wow. And mostly you want them to feel that because all the folks in the room, this is what we do all day, every day. And it's a little bit jaded, right? So there's not necessarily a wow. There's like, oh, I need to fix this. I need to fix that.
yeah,
Right.
But you don't want the model to feel that. So
No.
you
yeah.
want the model to feel like, this is like a really, powerful moment. So that's when I wanted the music to change and for the energy to be really big and feel confident. And so that they can kind of step into that, um, and sort of own that space. So I'm thinking about, like, from a multisensory standpoint, how do you create an environment that's going to have an influence on someone's state of mind? And I think that a stylist has so many tools that they can use and telling a story without saying any words.
Mm. I love that. I love it, and you're really talking about being of service to
Mhm.
that entire experience. So, yes, of course, setting it up and doing all of these things like for the shoot and the brand, but even to take care of the model in that way is so important. And I love that. And I think that translates so well to our industry,
Oh, yes, 100%.
right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The whole experience is so important.
One of my favorite things I like to ask clients is, let's sit down. I want to sit face to face with you. Let's talk about what's going on and say, how do you want to feel? Like, that's what they spend most of the consultation talking about is how
Mhm,
they want to feel. So let's get to it. All right,
mhm.
great. So, how do we do that? Really, the details of the haircut come last because it's the feelings, right? Yeah, I love it.
So true. I'm learning so much. This is so great.
I know. I'm like obsessed with Davia.
It's great. You literally help define like what beauty looks like globally. I mean, for all of
Hmm.
us, because the
Yes.
brands that you work for are like they have high exposure, and that's huge. That's really crazy. I mean, congratulations on all your hard work.
Well, it takes a village. It's not a solo act by any stretch of the
That's good
imagination.
because you'd be real stressed out if you were doing all of it.
Oh my god, it's so
Exactly.
true. So when you're shaping a brand's visual identity, where do you even start? Like, what kinds of questions are you asking?
That's a great question. So I think there are two areas of brand work that I have really focused on. One is evolving a legacy brand, and the other is launching a brand new brand. So there's
Mhm.
just there's like two opposite ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum, and they require two very different approaches. So for venerable brands, I do a lot of historical research first. I
Mm,
really want to understand everything that's ever happened with the brand. I want to know the origin story. I want to know what's happened between the origin story and today. Really think about what are the problems or challenges that that brand is facing now,
mm,
and that as I think about what is the solution to how to solve those, I feel like my role is really problem solving for the most part, right? It's
Mm.
coming up with some kind of answer. But first of all, you need to be very, very clear on what the question is.
Hmm.
So it's developing the right questions, getting a certain amount of validation that those are the right questions, and then doing the work to think about what is the solution to those particular challenges that a legacy brand has and to continue to evolve its voice. And so part of that is some social listening. And I think that's what we all are doing, whether we're realizing it or not, is, we're consuming so much social media content that there's a fair amount of like reading in the comments and sort of understanding like what the community through community feedback is saying about a brand. So
Mm.
kind of wanting to understand, like beyond my point of view, what's the buzz? Like what are actual real consumers saying about this brand, about the product? Because people who run a brand might think they have one problem, but the consumer might think it's a totally different problem.
Mm.
So you kind of need to be able to connect those dots. For a brand that's brand new, or even one that has been established, it's always being clear about defining that North Star. Like,
Mm.
what is the central reason for being, the purpose of this brand, and that all of the solutions do have to ladder up to support that. Kind of can't go off in all these little directions doing, little side projects. It's really dilutes the brand's voice and intention and can do more damage, I think. I'm getting a little in the weeds now, but that's sort
But
of
not
like,
really, because it's actually like very similar to when we're looking at clients, right? Like if you have someone come in, maybe who's a little bit older or that you've had for a long time, like you are looking at the history of that hair and what they've felt comfortable in or sexy in or what they love, right? Like that type of thing. If you have someone that's like brand new to life, like a young person, like they're a little bit more risky. And so it's really like, okay, well, what do you want your look to be? You just graduated college and you're, I don't know, you're joining an advertising company. Like, how do you want to be perceived? Because it's important.
Yeah, I'm
no,
also thinking from like an independent hairstylist, like somebody that's
Mm.
just coming into our industry, or maybe they're going independent from working in a salon and they want to create their like own brand. I want to put myself on social media as a hairstylist, not just a personal account, but like to promote my business and to get clients. Like that's pretty huge because it's really easy for us to get distracted. Our industry, there's so much to look at, there's so much to see. And also with like creating content, you're like, oh, you're chasing the algorithm and doing this and doing that. And it's very confusing. But when you, like you're saying, when you focus on one thing, the Northern Star, what your mission is, what your brand is. Yeah. That's
yeah. And then I think too, thinking about what that mix is for you in terms of the amount of time you're going to spend researching and consuming other people's content versus
Mm.
creating your own. Because I think that it's so seductive to just kind of stay in this consumption loop, and you just have to kind of put it down and start making things. Just make
Now
things.
that is a very interesting point. If you looked at that percentage wise, say you have a new brand or whatever, and you're looking at the market, how much time are you spending with other
Oh,
brands? Like at looking at it and researching and looking what's going on Instagram and the new thing and the trend and the blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
well, I came from an agency where we had a very specific formula and
Oh,
approach to how we did it actually.
oh.
And we had a pretty small team where each member of the team had sort of a very niche skill set. So, of course, I was the creative on that team, but I worked with a strategist and then a graphic designer and a copywriter.
Hmm.
And we would all have slightly different responsibilities within the brief, but essentially would be receiving the same brief in terms of like doing 48, 72 hours research, the hardcore like sprint. This is about being efficient, people. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
do it rapidly and come up with some assumptions and get it down on paper and then get ready to move on. Like, you don't want to spend a ton of time just in this research and reflection
Mm.
kind of mode. It's sort of like really just dive in, really saturate yourself with everything that's out there. And then sort of come away with some key findings and then move fairly quickly Because I think it's
Mm.
easy, like I say, to kind of get stuck in this inertia of like the research is never ending and the feedback is never ending. And you do sort of have to define. And obviously, when you're working with a team, it's easier to say, this is the amount of time we're going to spend doing this, go, and then pencils down. And it just kind of is what it is. And you're doing it together in that way. And sure, you could have spent another 5 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours, but at what point does it really make a difference?
Mm.
I think
Good
it's,
point.
try to set your goal about what it is you like, when you need to go live by, the minimum amount of assets that you need to have, and
Hmm.
then just go do the thing.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's really useful because it is very easy to get lost.
Yeah, we
Hear it
talk
all the
about it all the
time.
time. Yeah, totally. What can stylists borrow from like brand language, like color stories,
Mm.
mood, or texture to tell better stories through hair, in your opinion?
Well, I think both of you said it in different ways already, and it comes back to that relevance to that person. It sounds like you are both already really invested in talking to and understanding the individual that's sitting in your chair, to know more about where they are in their life and what is it that they're doing in their day-to-day life, so that you can understand what's most relevant to them
Mm,
beyond the specifics of their hair. That's going to be informing so many of your choices. Even if someone was to say, "I know I want a bob," but they're giving you all sorts of other particulars or about their lifestyle, their ambitions, and you already understand the texture and length and quality of the hair and all these things, the bob can be done in so many different ways.
mhm,
So I'm sure this is all starting to inform your point of view on like how you will create something. One of the things that I like so much about both of your work is that it's a look that someone can create for themselves day in, day out.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do a very done set look if upon request, but I don't know for how many people that is a relevant way of living right now.
Mm.
I know we are kind of having a hot moment with, you know, a hot roller, kind of smooth look.
Oh, be out the door by summer.
Yeah, yeah. But, like, again, that's a very
Yeah.
trendy kind of thing. But I think that you're so focused on creating work that is more enduring, right? That could be styled that way, but when it's not styled that way, it's not a problem.
Mm.
Um,
yes.
Yeah, and so I think that has a lot to do with your eye and your artistry and understanding your customer, your client, understanding what's relevant to them, as well as understanding what's possible in terms of the quality of the hair itself.
Mm,
Mm.
Because that's something that took me a long time as an art director to learn, and what I had to learn from hairstylists on set was, because, we have our mood board and we had a lot of direction from the brand about what was approved and what wasn't. We cast the model and everyone approves that person. They show up and their hair doesn't look anything like the picture. And we're
oops.
like,
Really?
okay. They're like,
Oof.
okay, maybe it's not even their hair. Maybe they're not even wearing their hair that in that picture.
Right?
Yep.
It
Oh
happens.
my God.
Happens
Oh
all
my
the time.
God.
Maybe that picture's 10 years old. Like, all kinds of
Whoopsie.
things could have happened.
Oh my gosh, yep.
And so, I worked with these incredible stylists that would say, okay, if you want this person to look like this picture, this is what it's going to take. They
Mhm,
wouldn't say, no, you can't do it. They just
Mm.
say, this is what it's going to take. You're going to have to be willing to have my assistant run out and buy hair extensions. You're going to have to
Yeah.
be willing to spend 4 hours of me hand curling every quarter-inch strand to get this type of texture that you seem to want to achieve. But they were also providing other solutions too. They'd say,
Yeah.
but we could also think about it this way. Maybe, like, what is it about the picture that you like? And do you
mhm,
like that it's smooth? Do you like that there's movement because of wind? Like, then you can sort of see things through it. Like, what are the qualities that you like? Because I can bring those qualities to the hair that this person has today.
Mm.
Um, and maybe that would be a more efficient and creative and appropriate solution for today's problems.
yeah,
And so I think that because people change their hair so frequently, models
Yeah.
especially, and it's part of their job to do it. I was really lucky that I got the benefit of a lot of onset education from stylists and telling me what was and wasn't possible and like what it
Yeah.
would take to achieve these things and to provide a lot of alternatives. And I'm sure I've been the worst offender of like bringing the inspo photo and say, I want to look like this. And Sarah's like, yeah, but that person has 10 times the amount of hair you have. So, is it really gonna look like
We could do that,
that?
but
Yeah, so I think we all have this sort of idealized image of ourselves in our mind, and that, this can be a transformative moment or opportunity, but then yet you've been tasked with this pretty high expectations. So how to
Mm,
manage those expectations, effectively.
yeah. Yeah.
Lots of communication.
Oof.
But yeah, education never hurt. Like I have appreciated
Yeah.
learning all these things about hair and then understanding what is possible and what it takes to achieve a certain look. So
Yeah.
I think some stylists starting out might not appreciate how far education of their client will go.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
So you speak a lot about emotion in your work. In your world, how does emotion drive the visual decisions that you make?
Well, yes. I mean, certainly making images or videos, films for advertising, it is about evoking a certain kind of emotion because you want to elicit, call it a call to action, right? You
Mhm.
want to elicit some sort of response. So folks will pitch lots of ideas to me. And when the ideas don't necessarily make sense, not because they aren't good, but just don't make sense to me yet, I will often ask, what is the emotion that
Mm,
you want me or the audience to feel? Like, what is it that you're trying to evoke so that I can understand more deeply what the point is? Because usually simple is better.
Mhm.
And I know a lot
mm,
of people don't like to hear that.
yeah.
Or they feel like that's like they didn't work hard enough or something to find a solution. But frequently, simpler solutions are more effective at communicating the emotion that you want to convey.
Mm,
So I do try to get people to sort of strip back to like what is the essential idea here to convey the emotion that you're
Mhm.
wanting to elicit in people. And that emotion in advertising is supposed to provoke a specific response, right? Like they want to buy into the brand, they
Yes.
feel aligned with the brand's values, that resonates for them. Or it's creating a sense of desirability and the need to have something that defies really any other logical explanation because so much in fashion beauty is about desire and
Mhm.
isn't about
oh.
essential things. So
Mm-mm.
you do have to create a heightened sense of desirability through emotional storytelling in order to
Mhm.
persuade someone that it's worth spending their time, spending their money with that brand. So, and I think that speaks for so many folks in terms of like how they show up in the world. There's this, I think, conversation that's great, really, really rich and generative conversation about ideas of authenticity. And then there's still this challenge of like how we show up and what story are we telling and the way we show up that's both authentic to us, but also will be persuasive and convey the type of emotion we're hoping to elicit
Mm,
from people. And that will change for someone, over time or the context of where they are, it could change. So I think creating styles that feel authentic to a person, but also have enough movement and flexibility that they can change it to adapt to a range of sort of different emotional contexts, I think is always like a very high standard for creative artistry and hair.
amazing.
Definitely.
I mean, you've had a lot of experience with quite a few brands. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you have refreshed legacy brands. You talked about that a little bit earlier. Things that people feel deeply attached to. I feel like that's a really delicate dance. How do you reinvent something without losing its DNA and including all the things that you were just talking about?
Yeah. So That's a great question, and that really is that really is it, because I think there's so much, concern about losing the core audience whenever you evolve,
Mhm.
a
Mm,
brand or change it in any way, and that's where there's the fear, right? But if things don't continue to evolve to some degree over time, there's a potential that they'll lose their relevancy, and your audience will become smaller and smaller and smaller because essentially they'll be aging out, right?
yeah.
So,
People evolve themselves also.
of course, of
Right.
course. So it's that thing about understanding what are the needs of your current community, right? Like if you're an individual business owner, really being honest about the community that you serve. And if you're trying to grow it, what are the different ways you can grow it? Does it have to do with physically expanding your audience reach geographically? Is it
Mm,
expanding it by age range, demo? Like, what are the ways that you could possibly expand your audience? And
Mhm.
then, how practical is that from a
yeah.
creativity standpoint? And like, once you've established your North Star, like, this is my core brand DNA that hopefully doesn't need to change too much,
Mhm.
but what are ways that we can telegraph this to today's audience that are going to be super relevant, and thinking about realistically who you can reach? Because one of the things that I'll see is that someone will be talking to an audience that they don't have. It's like very wishful thinking.
Okay, okay.
And so that's tough.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a tough place to be. Um, so I think it's okay to, define some specific goals and to take some risks to try to reach a new or expanded audience and see if it works and then build on that. Like, I don't think everything has to be, revealed in one fell swoop overnight. It's okay to have a slow refresh, I guess is what I'm saying,
okay.
that can be strategic based on once you've identified a specific new audience that you want to appeal to. Like for some hairstylists, if we're talking about hairstylists, it might be gender. They want to
Mhm.
have a more expansive range of clientele based on ideas of gender. That's an option, right? Thinking about how you would reposition yourself to reach more people from that point of view. That's just one thing that just came off the top of my head. But there's so many different ways you could think about segmenting your audience and talking to a net new audience in a way that's relevant to them to try to grow your clientele.
Great.
That might have answered my next question because a lot of
Mm,
times us stylists in the social media era have like really pinholed their clientele, right? They're
mm.
like, I am just a blonde specialist. But we're so multidimensional as hairstylists. I know I just cut, but I also style too. And
Mm.
I'm also a teacher. So, what advice do you have for people that want to evolve and expand, but they're afraid to lose what people know them for? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, I think if you're creating content for social media and you identify 3 pillars that ladder up into your business and creative practice, and so you always sort of want to maintain a bit of a storytelling balance between all 3 pillars. So, regardless of where your audience is coming from, there will be something for them that's
Mm.
relevant to you that may be relevant to them. So, I
Mhm.
do think there has to be this idea of like getting the mix right, having the right balance of content for sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well,
All
what
right.
has reinvention look like for you in your own career? Speaking of reinvention.
Well, I mean, we started off talking about how I've only ever done this, but I have done it for different industries. And I have done it for different brands, of course. And I think, most recently, after a decade of investment in fashion and beauty work, have pivoted into the cultural space, working now on brand for the Guggenheim, which is an art institution based in New York. And of course, we have locations and internationally as well. So,
Amazing.
while the essence of doing brand work all of the principles and the practice remain the same. It's a totally new industry, if you will,
Mm,
for me. And a very different set of concerns in the sense that I'm going from a for profit space to a non for profit space.
Mm.
So, in my typical sort of fearless jump in feet first way, I wasn't particularly stressed out about any of those differences. It wasn't until I actually announced to my community that I was taking this job, they were like, "Oh my God, you just did a career switch." And I was like, "Oh, I did?" Because it seems like the same old thing. So, so make of that what you will. But
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
mean, like your skills are your skills, right? And you have to think about, like, I was the one that persuaded the folks at the Guggenheim that my skills were relevant to their evolving needs. And one of
Wow.
the needs that they shared with me was to expand their audience reach beyond a known art appreciation audience to folks that might not think art is for them. And so that was a really interesting challenge for me, and one that I really wanted to invest a lot of time in doing. So I think there's that piece of it too. Like, this is your job and what you're going to be spending most of your time doing. So, do you really want to do it?
Yeah.
And I really, really want to do it. And I love doing it. And I feel super like jazzed to be doing it every day. And I hope that other folks can feel that way, especially when it's a creative endeavor, because you're putting so much of yourself into it in so many ways. Like, you have to answer a lot of the questions on your own, right? There isn't a huge safety net or support for
Mm.
creativity from that standpoint. And if you're a single stylist working with a single client, as you are all day, every day, multiple different people coming, that is you taking a pretty significant risk and investment in your skills and your creativity, and the problem solving and the passion that you're bringing to this moment. So if you don't love it, then you have to think, like, what are the things about it that need to change for me to feel excited about this? And that's where, like I say, I met people who worked in the salon environment and then decided that they would prefer the creativity of editorial styling. And so that was a massive career change. I was
Mm.
giving up a really known, steady clientele to meet photographers, build a photo book, try to break in on Fashion Week behind the scenes and doing hair that way, like all the things that you have to do. And vice versa. I know people that worked on set for many years and then decided, you know what, I don't really want to do that for the rest of my life. I want to be in the salon now. Now it is a career change, a big transition to make, but there are ways to evolve in the field, whether it's learning new skills or shifting the environment that you work in to attract to intentionally kind of cultivate a new type of clientele or a new creative project. So I don't know if that's helpful because
Yeah.
I see it all as all the same thing.
mm,
But yeah, don't let other people pigeonhole you into the thing. Stay curious. And I think continuous learning is super key. Like, there are
Mm.
always new techniques, new tools. The more you can be curious about them, even if you decide they're not for you, having awareness and knowledge of them is so powerful. And I think that the hairstylist is sort of gatekeeper to so many of the trends, right? Not only in terms of like knowing the techniques and teaching you how to achieve the look that you want, but knowing which tools are good and which ones are like, don't do that. That's a waste of money.
yeah.
Or product, all of these things. Like, in many ways, the stylist is this incredible gatekeeper who's had an opportunity to be hands on with all the emerging tech and tools and products. So, like, I think have a cultivate an appetite for that, be in the know, and
Mm,
that's like hugely, hugely valuable to your clientele.
so
Mm.
true. So you lead large multidisciplinary creative teams, and that requires more emotional intelligence than people think, right? So what makes a creative environment feel psychologically safe for you?
So, I have a confession to
Because it
What?
make.
doesn't always feel safe for me. In like
Okay, well,
set and
I
doing what you do, I'm like, ah.
I think I probably really sucked at it until I had kids. And that's just me. I'm not saying that's like a universal truth or anything. And what I mean is, I I knew what I wanted. I was laser like focused on it, and I was probably not very nice for when I was very young and starting out, partly in response to being very young and having to fight to be heard
Yeah.
amongst colleagues that had a lot longer tenure
Mm.
than I did. So even though I had a very accelerated sort of path, in retrospect, no, I wasn't patient with people. Wasn't very generous. Just wasn't. Very demanding.
It's fair. That's
Uh,
fair.
um, so I like to think that having kids for me, and it's different for everyone. I think, I've met a lot of really young, impressive, creative minds that did not have the same deficits that I had. But for me, having kids was an opportunity to really reflect on um, on how to get the best out of people. So I approach it differently now. I
Mhm.
I like
Isn't
to say
that
that I've
funny?
evolved considerably, and my kids are
That's
14, so I'm 14 years in
you're good. You're
on
good.
the I'm a better boss than I once was. Pretty.
Oh,
Um,
that is so funny.
so I think for me now, I don't come at it with what do I want and try
Mm,
to bend someone to my will, which is probably what I did when I was 25.
Mhm.
Um, and now I am much more curious to understand what motivates everyone on my team.
Mm.
Like, what is it that gets them up in the morning? Like, why are they excited to be here? What are they excited to do? And how can I try to find ways to give them more of that work and simultaneously reduce the friction, reduce the stuff that is like, they don't necessarily excel at, like within reason. Like, there are skills that we should all have. And sometimes folks are reticent to push themselves to learn new things because it's
mm,
hard. So, a big part of my job is showing people that I'll do it too. We'll learn it together.
Mm.
It's less scary, intimidating, and less hard when we're learning it together collectively. When
Yes.
they see that I'm willing to acquire the hard new skill myself and utilize
mm.
it,
Mhm.
they're less reluctant to do it as well.
Mhm.
And then you find you come out on the other side and you have this new skill and it's like a
Yeah.
superpower. And other people want to know you did that and how to do it too. And so it'll have a snowball kind of effect. And then I try to be really direct and clear and consistent all the time, all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that people know what they're
Who
getting.
you are.
They know what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also try to let people know that it's okay to have difficult or challenging conversations. Um,
Yeah. So, how do you do that? Actually giving feedback that helps people grow. I'm sure there's a lot of difficult conversations that come up for you.
Mm.
well, when I was doing commercial work at an ad agency, the client says no, right?
Oh, well,
They
there's
don't have
that.
to they don't really have to give you any reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do. It's great when they do, but sometimes they just go, "No, thanks. Don't like it."
Mhm.
Okay.
And that happens quite a bit. I mean, you don't want it to happen a lot. But when it does happen, you do need to take those learnings back and really be frank about it with yourself and with your team and sort of understand, like do postmortems, if you will, and understand like how would we do this differently next time if we find that there was a different solution, a different path that would have been better for everyone for whatever reason. It's sort of being able to honestly address those things and then committing to not sort of repeating a pattern. Because one thing I learned was it's sort of like a muscle memory, right? Like it's easier to keep doing the same thing you've always done, even if you did
Mhm.
have a less than optimal result. It's so much more effort to pump the brakes and
Yeah.
say, this doesn't work. I need to
Yeah.
do the hard thing and figure out something different, even though the
Yeah.
outcome will be uncertain until I do it probably a few times. But like collectively getting on board with that mindset and saying, okay, it's going to be harder at first, but we all agree we don't want to keep repeating unforced errors, mistakes we don't need to make, things that weren't productive in the end, how whatever the challenge was, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I really like to feel like we're in a continuous learning environment where mistakes can happen, are going to happen. That's inevitable. It's not the end of the world. It's less good if we can't learn from it and do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Ugh.
when I show up that way consistently, and it's not about blaming people for something that went wrong, and it's more about like what can we learn from this and how can we grow from it, then I find folks are more apt to trust you, more apt to be all in on the ideas and the work and the collaboration. And all of this work has to happen collaboratively. Like when I was doing the studio work, it's a great example of like 10 or 20 people would show up at 8:30 a.m. call time, and most of them had never met until that moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
we'd have a group breakfast together, and then the lighting folks would start lighting, hair and makeup would start that, the stylist would get her assistant set with steaming, we'd have fittings, all the things, and everyone's meeting each other for the first time. And they're coming from all different walks of life. They had all different ages, all different backgrounds. And yet we had to be in this room for 10, 12 hours and make something happen. And it had to be like for somebody else, for a client. And it had to be
Yeah.
great every single time. There was
Yeah.
no, oh, it didn't work this time. No, no.
No,
It's
no. It sure
tens of
will.
thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single day.
Yeah.
So it was this great opportunity for conversations to happen very, very rapidly, decision making to happen very rapidly, a lot of collective goodwill, a lot of collaboration, and everyone was needed. If one person walked off the set, it wasn't going to be a success.
Mm.
So there was a desire, I think, among the group for it to work because then you get called back the next day. Otherwise, no one gets called back. So,
Yeah.
having about a decade, 15 years of that was really great experience to sort of take into my, more staid corporate role that I have now.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
Should we move into the future of beauty imagery?
Yes.
All right, listen, beauty is shifting fast. AI, unretouched imagery, but is still retouched. Individuality,
Guilty
inclusivity,
as
all the
charged.
yeah, just saying, there we are. Uh, what trends in visual culture do you think will define the next chapter of beauty? If you could put some words to it.
Yeah, things are moving fast for
Yeah, they
sure.
are.
And
Whew.
even though I joked about, being guilty of the retouched images, I
Uh-huh.
do have to say that so many of the brands that I worked with really did take quite seriously the customer's demand
Yeah.
for unretouched images. So, for instance, when I was working with great many of L'Oreal brands, everyone on set had to sign a affidavit saying that there would be no retouching. And
Wow.
not only no retouching, but no a lot of other things, like no artificial lashes. If we're doing a mascara campaign, like we can't fill the lashes with artificial lashes, all sorts of things like this. Like we had to use just the product, nothing else. And we had to sign affidavits to that effect.
Huh.
So
Wow.
the brands were
I had no
very,
idea.
very serious about being able to deliver on that promise to a consumer that was demanding more transparency and more authenticity.
Yeah.
And we've seen this tremendous embrace of like real skin,
Mm.
I think, in campaign work, normalizing acne and blemishes and scars and wrinkles and all these things. And I think that's been tremendously innovative and really refreshing. And then I see emerging really young set that loves this dichotomy between a virtual world that's completely artificial and then a hyper real touch grass
Oh,
reality
interesting.
too. And they're living in both worlds simultaneously, seamlessly, and don't have the same kind of um, conflict and how to navigate that. I mean, I could say
Mm.
that for my kids for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a sample group of two, but I see that in talking to a lot of folks about AI and what they think about it or how they want to use it and these kinds of things. And so there's not necessarily an aversion to having two realities that you can play with. What it all
Mm.
means, I mean, don't ask me.
I mean,
That's above
it's
my pay grade.
Sure.
so far from how I grew up. I'm like, "What?"
But also I kind of love it. Like it is like these two separate things, but then how do they kind of melt and move in and out of each other? Which one's gonna kind of win? Not that they win, but like I don't know. Like it's an interesting thing. I feel like maybe is this what people felt like when cars started happening, right? Or like, I don't know,
TV.
medicine, TV,
Mhm.
right? All of those things where it's like, whoa, this is moving so fast. I mean, I do think AI is moving a little faster than that, but that's just the way it goes. It's really, I don't know, it's interesting. And
Yeah.
like for our brand specifically, now I'm going down a rabbit hole, like we're really conscious about using AI in a responsible way. And like, how can we be stewards of that, like on the internet? And maybe people will like that, you know? So I don't know. It's interesting
Mhm.
for sure.
Are
Mhm.
you using AI in the content now?
So we're not using it in the way of like adding another person in or something like that, or that like it being so forward facing, but we do use programs like this where we can talk to someone in Germany, Colorado, and, you know, Ecuador all at the same time and make it look like it's in the same room.
Right.
We could do that. We don't know how to do that, but maybe we could. We could look it up. Also, we use it a lot. Thought partner with the
Mhm.
large language models. That's a really big one. Like, okay, we want to talk to this person on HairSmarter. Like, give me everything that they've ever done and what they're most proud of. Whatever's on the internet, right? Because it scrubs like the internet thing. So
Mhm.
that makes research a lot better and gives us a little bit like, oh, let's go down this rabbit hole or let's go down that rabbit hole. So definitely using that. And then by the end of the year, we were looking to maybe partner with some kind of a university to figure out a little project, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. No, I think it's better to figure it out
Yeah, for sure.
and think about how it could be useful for you, what the applications are, than to ignore it.
Well, it's an interesting space, and maybe we need to find, I'd love to have a guest on as well that, like, you know, what does it look like in the creative space? What does it look like for us to use that? What's strictly human and strictly, you know, whatever? And how can we melt those together? So I don't know. Yeah, I guess that should be our next guest.
I would
Well,
love it
I
to edit video.
yes. I know, seriously,
Yes.
right? Yes.
'Cause
I
How are you using it? Do you
I'm
think you'll use it at the Guggenheim?
well, I mean, the artists that we show are really invested in using it to create aspects of their work.
mm,
Interesting.
So I am very interested from that perspective.
Yeah.
We also partner, one of our sponsors is Bloomberg Connects,
Oh,
and they have this cultural app, right, where a lot of museums participate and provide audio guides as you're touring the
okay.
institution. And now they're providing basically a transcreation in any language, which is an
wow.
AI
Oh,
tool, which is, I
Wow.
think that's great, right? You know, because obviously there's going to be a limit to how many translation, different languages we would provide information, which is
Yeah.
not practical at a certain
mhm,
point. But
right.
if any language that the AI model has ingested essentially can be
Yeah.
leveraged. So I think that that could have a really great benefit for folks that might not be able to experience a show as deeply without that assist in their chosen language. So
Oh, it's amazing.
there are good things, I think, for sure, along with all the sort of scary
Uh,
consequences too. But I'm thinking no hair color. That's a whole field that I think,
Mm,
and makeup and hair in particular, like hair color in particular, They're looking for AI tools to enhance the consumer's journey so that you can like try on the color before you commit and that sort of
Interesting.
thing. I'm trying to think who I know at L'Oreal who you might be interested in having as a guest that's on the professional hair care side of the
Oh,
business.
well, let's
That's
definitely chat after this podcast. I don't want to give it away. Oh my goodness. Wow. This has just been so great. We have one more thing before we let you go back to
oh
your
yes.
workday. We have a tradition here on this show where each guest leaves a question for the next. Our last guest asked, looking back, what habits or values have been most beneficial in your professional journey?
Um, okay, habits or values. So I'd say from a value standpoint, honesty and directness don't ever let you down.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with that.
because even if someone disagrees with you, that's somehow easier to take than if you were dishonest to yourself about something and how you reconcile that. So this is where I got back to that earlier statement about being willing to have difficult or challenging conversations, um, and thinking about, productive and kind ways to share feedback that's honest and
Mm,
direct, I think has been good for me as a creative leader.
I love your answer. It's so true. I think as a young person, you don't always know that. We've
yeah.
gained that through all of our experience, but our young audience, listen, stay true to yourself.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I find, a lot of folks can do it. I think I, in particular, was maybe socialized to be polite. I'm Canadian, after all.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
and so sometimes that comes at the cost of being direct and honest.
Yeah.
So just to like to be polite. It's good to be polite, but
But
uh,
yeah,
Yeah.
so does this mean that it's my turn to ask
it
a
Yes,
does
it's
question
mean
of the
that.
next
What
person?
May.
question would you like to leave?
Okay, so this is something that a boss of mine introduced me to, a former boss, and I regret that I didn't meet this person earlier in my career because she's had such great wisdom and guidance. And so I feel like I came to this very late, and now I'm super curious to understand how other people do it. And it has to do with networking.
Mm,
And
Ooh.
so, what are this person, your next guest, what are their big networking tips and suggestions?
Ooh. Coming out of the
that's a
gate
cool
strong.
question.
Tips. All right. We'll let you know. And, for everyone who's listening, you can definitely hear the answer to that when our next guest comes on. Davia, thank you so much for pulling back the curtain on how beauty gets built, not just in campaigns or museums, but the stories we actually tell behind the chair.
Well,
And
Sarah and Sarah Jane, thank you both so much for having me. It's been so
thank you
fun.
Yes.
so much. It's been so great. I'm so inspired.
Me too.
Yeah, definitely
Crazy.
have to work
Crazy.
on my brand, our brand
I know.
also.
You guys are crushing. I love your work.
Thank
Just
you.
keep doing it.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And listen, like to our listeners, thank you for spending the time with us. If you love this episode as much as we did, hello, obsessed. Please take a second to share it, subscribe, leave a review, whatever you like to do.
It helps us reach more stylists everywhere and keep these conversations going. Your support genuinely fuels this entire project.
Yes, we appreciate you being part of the community. And thank you for listening to Hair Smarter.
Where we share things that beauty school didn't teach us.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Davia.
Thank you. Adore you both.
Thank
Love
you.
Take
ya.
care.
Thank you. Thank you.